Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Reiki Lifestyle Podcast. I'm here with Colleen.
Hello.
And we're really excited to have back Molly McCord. Hi, Molly.
Hi, thank you so much for having me again. I just so enjoy talking with both of you, Robyn and Colleen. Thank you.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Colleen and I are subscribers of all of Molly's things. She is definitely somebody that we just really appreciate the wealth of knowledge that you are, Molly, with all of your resources and knowledge around astrology and, everything that you share about. So thank you so much.
That's so kind. Thank you, because I'm delighted to connect with your community and listeners again, because this is the time that we need more energy workers, more healers, more guides to be doing this work. So it's wonderful to connect and support through this.
Yeah, it's so true. And when we're recording this, we are about to have quite a few planets in retrograde. We won't talk about that, but it's like talk about needing support of each other. And I love the topic that you want to talk about today with Chiron. Let me go ahead and read your bio and your information just so that because I'm already ready to get into it. Okay.
Yeah.
So Molly McCord, MA, is a professional astrologer who has been studying and practicing Western tropical astrology for over 30 years. She's a best-selling author of 10 books, professional intuitive astrologer, podcaster, business strategist, and modern consciousness teacher. Molly has been hosting her popular podcast, Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord, for 11 years to support people around the world with tapping into their own cosmic energies and power. Molly has a BA in political science and women's studies and a master's in international relations and diplomacy as a formal channel for understanding global consciousness with a Jungian perspective. With over 25 years of sales, marketing, business development, and leadership experience, Molly aims to support more entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, healers, and authors build their dream business in practical, solid ways. And her website is Molly McCord. Molly is spelled how we know it, and McCord is MCCORD.online. So it's mollymccord.online. Instagram is MoxieMolly11 Astrology. I'm sure you can just search for Molly McCord and she will come up. She's on Facebook as conscious.cool.chic. Is it pronounced chic though?
Yeah, and it's so outdated. I wish I could change it, but yeah, yeah, I think that's what it is. So, yeah.
So you're super active on Insta, YouTube, and your podcast, right? Is kind of where you're,
yeah. I'm in the typical places. So yeah.
And then YouTube, Molly McCord Astrology. Her podcast is Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord, and her TikTok is Molly McCord Astrology. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so funny. I get so sick of hearing my own name, but yeah, you just
I know. Totally.
But thank you.
You have to say it because people need to know where they can find you.
True. And there's so many places these days, but I guess I just want to say that we're going to talk about Chiron, but I just want people to know, like, this is an exciting time for your business, for your expertise, for your skills. Like, that's really what's needed on the front lines. And I remember seeing that in the astrology before 2020, because before 2020, it was evident that things were going to be changing permanently. And it was like we needed all healers stepping up, coming forward, owning their power, owning their gifts, like really ready to be who you are. And so I'm excited to talk about Chiron today with you, Robyn and Colleen, because it's so important too for healers to understand this archetypal energy, also personally and for the collective as well.
Yeah, I think it's such an important topic and agree with you that, what I love about some of you have focuses in a lot of different areas, but with that business stuff, we don't always think of astrology and business going hand in hand, but knowing what's going to go on in your chart can be so helpful and moving with the energy that's happening in your chart and in the planets in general.
Absolutely, because it also can depersonalize it when you're building a business and you're like, why isn't this clicking? Why isn't this going? I was using my personal astrology chart for business that said that 2017 is when I needed to get on YouTube. And that's when I got on YouTube. It's like the astrology can show you what is right on time for you and helps you understand, what you can't muscle through or you can't make it happen, but to keep working with your energy is the way to trust who you are in this lifetime and to trust your journey more. So that's one of the beautiful things I love about astrology too.
Or when you have a major Jupiter thing where everything's expansion, Like,
yes, it's
yeah.
true. And it's actually Jupiter and Saturn, because Saturn is looking for you to make it concrete, make it real, make it solid, put in the work and the energy. And that too can be hard because it requires a lot then to get things going. But both the Jupiter and Saturn cycles are wonderful to understand because of how they show you what is right on time for you.
Well, and I think of that too. We use the language life cycles so often, and the cycles that we're in. And for me, that's what astrology really is helpful with, because it helps you define the actual life cycle that you're in and the timing of it, because the cycles have beginning, middles, and ends. And so having the astrological information about clarity around the cycle, what, like you say, your focus can be and is, where you're going to be more effective, where you might be possibly challenged, and the time frames with that. And I've been fortunate that my mother was studying astrology in the 70s, and I thought she was just like a little bit like,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. But then, of course, over a lifetime, it's like it makes a difference. So anyway, I want you to talk.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. I can't remember if you mentioned that last time, but it's just the coolest thing that your mom was into astrology in the 70s. No doubt a leader, on the forefront of things and tapping into those energies. How incredible to grow up with that too.
I still have all her books. So you can imagine the wealth of knowledge that are in those, some of the really, OG astrologers. So.
And how popular astrology is now, how mainstream it is, how people are curious and want to check it out, and they're seeing the value and the benefit of it. So it's really awesome that we can weave in the astrology with, not only our life themes, but with these specific themes, like as we're going to talk about today with Chiron, the wounded healer, and then how that affects our lives as well. So,
I love this topic, Molly, because I think so many people that come to healing work have this Chiron experience, and they have this Chiron journey that they have been through, and it's part of what has brought them into the healing arts for healing themselves, and then maybe even onto healing others if that's where it brought them to.
Absolutely. And on that note, I'll start by explaining some of the mythology, the story behind Chiron, the wounded healer. And to help understand Chiron is more of an asteroid between Saturn and Uranus. It's in the asteroid belt. And in mythology, Chiron was a centaur who was different from the other centaurs and was in fact orphaned by his parents, and he was kicked out of essentially his community, and he suffered from being targeted by a poison arrow. And so this energy of Chiron is really beautiful to understand here, as I'll explain in just a minute, because Chiron is the energy of where we look to be found because of what we feel we have lost or what has injured us, what has wounded us. And so Chiron, the wounded healer, as a centaur, left to go into his cave to essentially take care of his wound, that poison arrow. And also he became a very influential mentor and teacher. He became very adept at understanding medicine, such as herbs and what he could find in the forest. And he became highly revered for this knowledge and understanding that started because he was ostracized. He was kicked out. And so the energy of Chiron actually comes with two typical themes, which is there can be an emotional wound, such as being rejected, being abandoned, being ostracized or kicked out. And there also can be a physical wound, such as the wounding by the poison arrow, the wounding of a body injury, etc. So Chiron symbolizes two kinds of wounding, the physical and or emotional. And it's where we go then for safety, for healing, to understand what's going on and to take care of ourselves. Now, Chiron also was, because he was kicked out of his community, and of course I'm just giving some broad strokes here of the mythology, but because he was kicked out, he had to find alternative methods of healing. And Chiron is about the alternative path. It's not the mainstream path. It's what you discover on the side. It's what comes up more organically. And so these are some of the powerful themes that we associate with Chiron. And we each have this energy in our natal chart. And so in your astrology chart, when you were born, Chiron was in a particular astrological sign, astrological house, and perhaps even interacting with other planets in your chart, which we call aspects. And Chiron reveals how you could have felt an injury, especially when you were younger. And it varies for everyone, the first injuries we experience, and that can be emotional. Again, that can be physical. That can be various things that come up. We see it astrologically through what's called Chiron squaring Chiron, which can happen anywhere between the ages of 4 years old all the way into your late 20s. So granted, that's a big span of time, but it's looking at, well, what were my initial injuries that I had when I was younger? Sometimes I think about this as junior high, like if you were bullied or if you were in high school and you didn't do well and people made fun of you, or something happened in your family that was really difficult, really hard when you were growing up, whether it's something from a sibling or a parent. Obviously, there's so many ways this energy can play out, but it's often our unconscious wound that is prominent that we're looking to heal. We're looking to understand, how do I make this better? Now, part of the Chiron story is that he was immortal. And so he had this wound and he realized he didn't want to keep this wound for eternity. So he traded in his power in order to no longer be immortal, but to end his own wounding, to end his own injuring, to be a regular being instead of one with immortal powers. And this allowed him to then also be a better teacher and healer and therapist and guide to support others in understanding their own wounding. And so when we look at these archetypal energies, Chiron brings alive our own capabilities that we can feel invited to tap into, to understand, to go deeper into, and of course, to heal for ourselves. And that's part of our human journey, is we have wounds, we have fears, we have insecurities. Chiron is associated with where we feel vulnerable, where we don't feel so confident. When I see Chiron in a chart, it can highlight what someone is perhaps working through in order to really own their own energy more. And the glyph of Chiron in astrology looks like a key, which is so beautiful, but it looks like a key. It looks like a key, and it has like the letter K at the bottom. And so it's the key to your own healing, the key to knowing yourself. It's also the key to a sense of humility, or a sense of understanding that you're not only, your mind, your ego, your body, but you have these abilities to work with energy. And so Chiron is known as the wounded healer, because it's by addressing that wound that we also move into our own healing journey, our own healing gifts and healing path. But it's something that we continue to work on and work throughout our lives. So it's not as if, you get injured and then it's all better forever. The Chiron energy is that you're aware of the injury. So let's say there's something that happened to you when you were younger, be it an emotional injury of rejection, or, being targeted by mean girls. Well, that's something that maybe you have to continue to move through in your life when you get triggered, or when you feel like another similar situation is coming up or showing up for you, like in the workplace or with family members. Your unconsciousness, your subconscious really is aware of that initial wound. And the Chiron energy is asking you to now be the healer, where yes, you had the experience of the wounding, but to not act from the wounding so much as to step into the power of the healing.
So then once you, so with how the aspects work of it, you said it's Chiron square Chiron. Is that only in that time frame or does that come back around when you might have another experience of it?
Yes. So Chiron has what we call an irregular elliptical orbit. So it doesn't spend equal amounts of time in each astrological sign as other planets do. So like, for example, with Saturn, we know that Saturn spends 2.5 to 3 years in every sign. And Chiron isn't like that. So Chiron can move quickly through some astrological signs, or it takes longer. At this time, Chiron is in Aries from 2018 until 2027. And so it's moving slower through Chiron, which means we are each being asked at some level of our being to go into those Aries energies and to look at where perhaps the wounding is, or the vulnerability, or the insecurity, and to tap into that energy and to move through it. So to answer your question, Robyn, it doesn't happen at the same time for every person, that first Chiron square Chiron. However, what does happen at the same time for every person is between 49 and 51 years of age, everyone has their Chiron return, which is where Chiron returns to exactly where it is when you were born. And this occurs usually over 3 years or so, sometimes longer, but this is true for everybody. And it's basically showing you the energy that how you've lived your life. It's like, what is coming up with the Chiron return that you have worked through, that you have healed, that you have become aware of? And then where are you opening up to the next stage of your life? And for some people, this could bring up so many different things that challenges that Chiron energy, that brings up something that is a wound, that is something they've never seen in themselves, that has been operating unconsciously. The Chiron return is a time of life assessment, again, between 49 and 51 years of age, and looking at, okay, what do I want to do next in my life? And also, how am I continuing to take care of myself, take care of my energy, take care of who I am, and to honor it. So the Chiron return happens at the same age for everybody, but the other aspects do not. The other aspects do not.
Okay.
Well, that is really fascinating because I would say I see such a consistency of that stage and that life cycle in that 49 to 51 in my clients and students, where that's part of what they're doing is transitioning from those, early years of 20s and 30s, and now then 40s giving meaning, and 50s really, well, what is next?
Yes, exactly. And the Chiron cycle is fascinating because there is a story that's created when you understand, again, the Chiron injuries, insecurities, vulnerabilities that you've had to endure and move through. And then I feel that there is this beautiful bridge that happens during that Chiron return between 49, 51. It's this bridge into a new consciousness of yourself, a new understanding of what you are responsible for in your own energy, what you need to look at or understand or take seriously. And of course, this is different for everyone, depending on if you've already been working on those themes or not. But the Chiron return offers this beautiful bridge into really owning more of who you are, what you're capable of, and what you want. And that is part of how Chiron is a key. And it's the key to more of your authentic energy. And what I have observed, and also what I've experienced in my own Chiron transits, that honestly, they can be really difficult. They can be really hard. They can make you feel all kinds of stuff that comes up and out. And it activates a lot. But what it does is it's a frequency shift. It changes something within you. It asks you to oftentimes unwind the ego or unwind the mind, or look at where your energy is out of balance, or where you've been over giving, over providing, overdoing. It can have things come up in your relationships, in your home, in your family. And it is this frequency shift that's so personal. And yet it's also what kind of shows us more of not only who we truly are, but what we want next in our lives. But it often brings up something maybe very challenging or difficult to move through at first. But that's how you tap into more of what you're capable of as well.
Yeah, that there's power on the other side of it. And even in the term like wounded healer, it's almost past, future.
Yeah.
But they can also be synonymous and then also separate with each other. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I think about how Chiron is after Saturn, so Saturn is the energy of our physical world, tradition, what we're responsible for, our commitments, what we have to take care of. Saturn is very 3D. It's very much about, this is how I stabilize myself. This is what matters to me. These are my long-term goals. Well, then after that, we have Chiron there in the asteroid belt that takes us to Uranus. And Uranus is about liberation, authenticity, freedom, awakenings. It can also be quite disruptive and chaotic and revolutionary. And so Chiron is this beautiful bridge into new parts of your own consciousness that maybe you didn't see before. Maybe you were locked into a certain 9-to-5 groove, or you had certain goals in life or expectations. And then a Chiron aspect happens for you that changes something in your perspective. It changes what you want to do in life, or it shows you what is working, what's not working. And it brings up, well, what do I want? What would make me happy? What does offer me more than what I thought I wanted in life? And so then it connects us to this energy of Uranus, which is a return to more of who you truly are outside of your roles and your titles and what you have to do for others and what matters, today. Uranus wants you to open up to more of your cosmic energies, your gifts, more of what you're capable of, that often sounds kind of crazy or weird at first. I mean, Uranus is the planet that rules astrology. It rules all these other modalities that aren't part of the mainstream, so to speak. So Chiron is this wonderful energy into more of who you truly are. But again, it's like you have to unwind and release some parts of your self-concept or your self-identity to get into the heart of it. So it's the key to more of the heart of your authenticity.
Well, and I think that's such a, as you were talking about it, and the idea of how many years so many of us have taken care of others, and our focus has been about responsibilities and others, that self-introspection is one of the more difficult aspects. And maybe in some of those ages, you have more time possibly to do that, but it can be chaotic feeling, like you say, with the Uranus transit, of how do you even learn how to be personally introspective.
And the Chiron energy often it's like it can appear as some kind of breakdown. It can appear as something that you have to, figure out, or it's falling apart in your life. This is where people go through divorces, or they are an empty nester, or they're realizing, I hate this job. It's like, I love the paycheck, but I don't like the job. And so they realize they have golden handcuffs to the job. And they start to realize, like, I'm not happy. And of course, our bodies, being these brilliant communicators of energy, our bodies can be communicating to us what isn't working as well. If we're not taking care of our health and exercising and eating our broccoli and doing the things we need to do to be really strong physically. And this is the other energy that Chiron rules, is the physical body, and that self-care and how we maintain the energy on a regular basis. Chiron is ruled by Virgo. So if you understand Virgo energies, it's a beautiful connection here that Virgo is about our daily maintenance, things we have to take care of regularly. You got to eat, right? You got to drink water, you got to shower. And then the bigger picture is how you use your energy to contribute to something, to do work you enjoy, to perhaps be a part of something that builds up a sense of I'm good at this, I have the skill set, I'm capable. So Chiron and Virgo are the same energy signatures essentially. And it helps us to look at, okay, well, how am I taking care of my physical vessel? How am I honoring everything my body does? And then what messages are my body sending me that I need to really pay attention to? So sometimes with Chiron, it can bring up a health crisis or an illness or something that gets your attention around where the body needs support, needs care, and needs healing.
Everybody right now is like, I'm going to go back to that time and see what was going on.
I know.
Chiron.
Too.
Yeah.
Quit my job and became a Reiki healer when I, all the time.
And I hear stories all the time, especially from people who know nothing about astrology, right? But there'll be something like, on my 50th birthday, I realized I didn't want to stay in the medical field. I wanted to be an artist. Mm-hmm. And that's someone, she told me that story. And her husband had the exact same thing. Like they both wanted to make these career changes around the age of 50. And I'm like, this is beautiful Chiron return energy. So it shows us more of what we're capable of. And it can feel like too, like you're insecure at times. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to be good at this. I don't have the training or the credentials, but part of the Chiron energy is to be compassionate with yourself and to know that you'll figure it out. You'll figure out what you need to do for next steps.
Sorry, Colleen. Just real quick, does Chiron retrograde at all or no? Because
yes,
it does. Okay.
Yes. In fact, Chiron retrogrades every year for about five or 6 months or so. And so the Chiron retrograde is, as with all retrogrades, the internalizing of the energy more, to be more intentional, to be more conscious, to review, also to just slow down and go easier on yourself. So yeah, Chiron retrogrades every year for about half the year.
So, when Robyn said, we're all looking back at those age groups. And so I want to bring up a little bit of what was going on for me at that time, because it has a little bit of a different shift. It was when I was going through my own personal journey around healing my judgments.
Oh.
And one of the things that really came through during that time was healing my opinions.
Mm.
And it was such a big life change.
Wow.
Of learning to, observe my opinions. What are they? Are they mine? The opinions of others. It was at a time when I was observing a lot of opinions around me, in me. And so it had a little bit more of a psychological, if I reflect back to that time, it was really a deep psychological time of and then as Chiron probably does, bringing the solution, it's actually during that time that I was so engaged in that topic of investigating, feeling, healing opinions that it was exhausting. Like absolutely everything. First thing waking up, opinions. That I received the information that what really heals it and heals judgment is gratitude. Mm-hmm. And so it took me into a whole, really in my 50s and now in my 60s, the recognition, because at the time, gratitude, it's just there's a lot of buzzword energy around it. What's the frequency shift? So I guess as I'm talking this through with you, this takes it to what you were talking about, the frequency shift. And I can really notice that now that you say it.
Thank you for sharing that. That's quite powerful. Imagine if everyone around the globe had had that desire to work with the power of opinions and how much that would change us. So thank you for sharing that, Colleen, because I feel like that's so insightful. And it also is the reprogramming that Chiron requires as part of that frequency shift, where we can, yes, self-reflect and see more of what's coming up for ourselves, and then move it forward, choose to see it differently, really be intentional and conscious of, well, what do I want from this energy? What would serve me? What is better for me? What does bring me more of that internal peace and understanding? And I feel like with Chiron, because it can be so, the energy can be really difficult at times. It can be quite emotional. It can bring up a lot. It can bring up a lot. And that's part of the purging and the cleansing. And also, I see it sometimes as like the draining out of the energy that we've been holding, even at a cellular level. Your cells are holding on to energy from your ancestors, from your lineage. You could be holding on to stuff from when you were 3 years old that you didn't realize was still there because you were unconscious. You were 3 years old, and it's like, then you can hold on to things from when you were 18. So the Chiron energy can be like this giant squeeze. Like, we're just these sponges of energy, and it just squeezes out what we no longer need. And it can also bring up these bigger questions of, okay, then what am I going to replace it with? What am I going to call in?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, that will be a better fit and in alignment with who I am now.
Well, that was the time. During that time, my kids were becoming fully responsible adults on their own. And I became a grandparent. And so when I really look at then the tangible outcome of the psychological investigation, and that outcome was so important with my adult children, and shifting from, now I'm parenting this way, into, I need to parent differently.
Wow, that's huge.
Opinions are not going to be helpful.
Yeah. No, that's really.
Yeah, it was really, I bring it up because it was such like a huge time in my life with that subject. And then now that I hadn't really put it all together with it being like that, but it really was about, now my adult children they're fully adults. And
right.
They have a different relationship now. And what's that going to look like?
Right. Oh, that's beautiful. And so I feel like you bring up a really important point, Colleen, because you're so conscious and aware and tuned in, you were able to hone in on the theme for yourself. And that's a beautiful, basically like a very straight line into what the deeper issue is. And then there's many people who don't know what their theme is, and they can feel like they have a lot of things falling apart, or they feel powerless, or they feel like their life is really difficult. And it can be attributed to that Chiron energy that wants them to go deeper, wants them to go into the depths of the wound. And, I think about how we have, 7 layers of skin, and Chiron wants us to go all the way into those 7 layers. And I get the visual too, that sometimes I find that beautifully interacts with the 7 chakras, and how we might have to reprogram and really adjust all 7 chakras to the new frequency. And that there's things that we learn along the way as we do that. But it's that intention and that willingness to go into those vulnerable places, to go into the depths of what's really going on, that is the key forward. And this is why for some people, there's like this, like grasping at straws, like, what am I supposed to work on? What am I supposed to understand? And of course, this is one of the areas then that healers can really be useful and supportive in guiding people through all this. And that's something else that I wanted to mention about Chiron, is that Chiron is also where we often need assistance. Yeah. We need help. We need a helping hand. We need either the therapy or the counseling. We need the training. We need the energy guides, the healing, maybe all the above. But we need assistance with the Chiron energies, because oftentimes it can feel like too much to figure out on our own.
So we have Chiron in Aries right now, you said, right? And it's going to be in Aries for 10 years about. So tell us a little bit about that energy and aspects and how it manifests.
Yes, thank you for touching on this. So for all of us collectively, Chiron is in Aries right now. Again, it was 2018 to about 2027. And Chiron is bringing up the Aries energies that we each are looking at to heal and to move through. And in the sign of Aries, which is a cardinal fire sign, it's the first sign of the zodiac. It's our first self-identity. It's where we understand what we like, what we enjoy, who we are, what we're good at. And so when we have all of us on the planet experiencing Chiron and Aries right now, it brings up bigger questions about, well, who am I? And what do I need to heal that maybe I have received from other people? And so I see this online too, where this is part of the conversations around trauma and PTSD and realizations of, oh, when I was younger, I went through this and it formed me, it shaped me, it, helped for good or for bad, right? It was a part of my experience. The Chiron in Aries energy wants us to be more courageous being ourselves, wants us to feel more confident in who we are, but not from an ego perspective, because sometimes that Aries energy, it can be a lot. It is a leader. It's a maverick. It's someone who wants to go first. It's about adventure. It's also about the body. And so it brings up parts of ourselves, or maybe we don't feel so good at it, but we want to get better. We want to improve. We want to be more confident in truly owning who we are, but without that, hyper ego, or without thinking you have to be the best or you have to prove that you're number one. Chiron in Aries isn't about that. In fact, it's about understanding that all you have to do is be the best you. That's it. It's not about competition. It's not about trying to outdo somebody. So we're all moving through this energy in various ways, but it is working with the collective right now in understanding more of our own self identities. And again, changing the frequency of that so that we're stepping into more of our authenticity instead of who we thought we had to be in the world.
Well, and I think that it's, one of the significant reasons that Reiki is such a helpful energy, because it does take us to our authentic self. Well, it's not always gentle, but sometimes I'm like, well, if this was the gentle version. But it's that assistance that you're talking about, that, as an energy itself, because the frequencies are so high, it entrains us to those higher frequencies and higher levels of consciousness and thought. And looking at the world right now, this makes so much sense of so many people identifying and going deeper into their authentic self and the journey of that.
It's really personal. It's really personal.
Yeah.
And why probably so many people are called to not just Reiki, but all of these modalities that are helping them, move more into their authentic selves and their, inner truth. So it's because there's so many that are here now that people are finding these pathways to, receive that, to be that and heal and empowered. And, and so, yeah, there's just a lot of them, and however it gets you there, but it's what's part of what's calling them.
Yeah. And the Chiron in Aries is where you understand that you need to do something for yourself, and to not think that you have to negotiate that away or compromise it. It's almost like the universe will send you messages and signals that, like, no, this is important for you to take care of, because you're worth it, because you need it, because you deserve this healing or whatever it might be. It is a very personal energy in Aries. And it's also changing what people are understanding that they're good at, because Chiron connects you to your spiritual gifts. And that doesn't mean that these are spiritual gifts that you necessarily have to go into business for. I mean, not everyone's going to do that, but it's where you understand how to care for your energy, what that looks like for you, what is effective for you. What do you need every day that's a good ritual that is good for your energy, whether that is a guided meditation or going for a walk or your yoga practice, or maybe it's just time alone in the car and turning off the radio and enjoying silence. I mean, there's so many ways that, we can take care of our energy. And the Chiron in Aries wants us to pay attention to the body consciousness messages that are coming up for us, because Chiron is our body consciousness speaking to us. It's where you wonder, oh, do I have an allergy here? Or is something going on with my left leg or my right hip or whatever? It's like, that's part of Chiron too, is like, it wants you to stay connected to your body, because we live in a world that's so much focused on the mind, right? About talking and thinking and the stimulation and everything that we're taking in, especially nowadays with our phones always in front of our noses. So this is where we really need to tune into the body, turn off the mind, right? Be able to settle into the messages of the body, because that's also where this Chiron energy is speaking to you.
Well, I think that's one of the harder places for people is, self-care, taking care of self, prioritizing self. And I think that I see that a lot, and particularly in our communities, we're a big community of overgivers.
Yeah.
And learning how to receive is a huge piece of it that is so challenging.
Huge. Yeah, that's a wonderful point, Colleen, because I feel like, and it's like we know that giving, it can be your love language, right? It just makes you happy to give to people and to offer and to light them up. But we have to receive to be in balance. And also the energy of Chiron, it can show up as a crisis. It can show up as that health crisis, because you're not paying attention to yourself and what you need. And, we've heard health is wealth and all the beautiful things that are connected to.
I shared a meme yesterday that said, no body, comma, no enlightenment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yes. So the Chiron energy directs us back to, what do I need to take care of in myself? Because I'm worth it, because I need the care, because frankly, nobody else can do it for us in the most, in the most personal ways either. So Chiron is that guide. And if you think about how the Chiron energy was expelled from the community and went into the cave, it's like we need to have that safe place, whether that is in your home environment or just in your energy, where you return to your own cave, if you will, to really tune in to what's happening to yourself, what's happening in your energy, what you need, what would benefit you, and to make that a priority, because that's part of the Chiron wisdom.
Well, and that self-worth I think that is a big process for a whole lot of people, is connecting to their self-worth.
Oh, yeah. And it's kind of one of those easy catchphrases that we hear and we're like, oh yeah, I know what that means. And then, okay, but what does it look like? What are the practices? What are the rituals? How are you living and embodying that self-worth? Because that's what it really comes down to. And it can be simple, it can be free, it can be something you just do for yourself, 20 minutes or half an hour a day. But it's so necessary, especially in this day and age with everything going on all around us.
Oh, I love that, Molly. That's I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
How are you? As much as we could talk all day. I know we could.
Yes, we could. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And actually, Molly leads a lot of things where you can go and, she gives talks, and you can listen to her. Like I said, you can listen to so much of what she does on all of her things and her podcasts. I listen to you when I'm in the gym.
The podcast is great. Yeah. It's what I walk listening to the podcast.
Thank you. That makes me happy to hear that I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's so helpful.
So yeah,
It really
embodying that
does help with
self-worth.
that reflection, like, oh, okay, that's what's going on.
That's
Yeah,
why I'm
it's
feeling
really
this way
helpful.
today.
Yeah, it's not just me, it's the universe, it's the cosmos, it's this crazy energy we're moving through. Yeah, astrology is great for helping us to depersonalize it and to know that it's not just us. I mean, I feel like astrology is unity consciousness. It's unity consciousness talking to us and helping us understand what's moving through.
Well, fantastic. So you can find Molly at mollymccord.online. She's on Insta as Moxie Molly 11 Astrology, YouTube at Molly McCord Astrology, and then her podcast is Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. She also has a Facebook and a TikTok and other things. So you can find all of it at mollymccord.online. So
Well,
Thank you
in
so
addition, sign up for, the notifications, because it shows up in my emails with links to your podcast. And that's really helpful because I don't have to go search for it. So I want to encourage everybody to just even sign up for those so that you get the notifications.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Robyn. It's such a joy to connect with you. And I look forward to the next time we
Yes.
can meet, have another conversation.
I know, I can't wait. So thank
And
you.
not me right now going back into my chart and looking at all my
I know,
cards.
right? I did that. I have to admit. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I need to find out where's
Totally going to do that. What is my Chiron aspect?
because just one follow-up note with talking about it, I believe that Chiron came in after my mom started studying astrology. Yeah, it was like the 1990s.
1977.
What was it?
1977.
Okay, because I remember that when Chiron was first noticed
Yeah.
and introduced into astrology.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing it.
Yeah, and it's really had an interesting journey because it's only recently that we've associated it with Virgo, which is where it makes the most sense. So it's been pretty cool to watch the evolution of that too. And just one more note that on my YouTube channel, I have more information on Chiron if you want to check that out. If anyone listening wants to learn more about Chiron and their chart and the energies and all that. So there is more on my YouTube channel too.
Oh, great.
Awesome. And say the name of your YouTube channel one more time then.
It's probably Molly McCord Astrology.
Yeah.
I believe is what it is. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Molly. It
thank
was so
you.
great to have you back on, and we really appreciate you being on with us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both. I look forward to talking with you again. And thanks to everybody who made time to listen. It's such a great podcast. You guys have the coolest topics, great guests. It's such an honor to be included. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. And we're everything at ReikiLifestyle.com, just to simplify it. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.